Well, hello there. Welcome back to Lit Robes. I'm your host, Jared. We're going to do this thing.
And now it begins.
Today, we have two books that we're going to review, kind of a duology written by the author, Nnedi Okorafor. It's been a very, very cool little fantasy experience for me. Something completely new. And I think I've been kind of looking for that. If I'm looking at a trend, I'm looking for fantasy that doesn't fit the typical mold, especially the one that the Western fantasy authors typically seem to write: dragons and wizards and warriors and kings and queens. I know I always bring that up. That is typical for the Western fantasy because a lot of it often draws from Old English histories, French histories, Italian histories, things like that.
You know, bruh.
Well, today, the duology written by Nnedi Okorafor is about African fantasy based in African histories. It's very, very prevalent in these stories that they set themselves apart.
I'm super, baby, I'm super dope.
Because the books, Shadow Speaker and Like Thunder, the duology, they really address power. They address a new and changing world. Something happens to the world that creates a technological blackout of a sort.
You guys, there's no Wi-Fi.
It's almost as though something has happened to the world and now it's post-apocalyptic, but the world has changed in such a way that it's still providing for people. However, they call it the change, and it appears that more unexplainable things are happening in the world as well, not just to the world, but also to those that live in it. Some people are discovering that they have special powers that have somehow become a part of them.
You've changed, man. You've changed.
In telling this story, we come across the main character, AG. I'm going to probably just horribly thrash these names.
I crack up every time.
But mispronounce them probably. But EJII, AG. The main character is telling her story through first-person narrative, and it starts out with living in a village that is becoming corrupted, and they're visited by a person who could be viewed as a sorceress of sorts. And AG has lost a family member. I want to get too much into it. It kind of spurns this adventure of self-discovery and learning about who she is and what she's capable of doing. We really get kind of an idea of this peaceful person who's a very powerful, for lack of a better word, maybe a priestess or something, who can communicate with the world or seems to be an avatar of the world that she is living in. The magic doesn't really get discussed a whole lot in these books. Myths hold a lot more power than information and knowledge. So the Shadow Speaker is AG, and she meets this person who apparently is a rain dancer or a person.
Nailed it.
And they join together, and they're very mistrusting of one another, but at the same time, that kind of helps to build a bond. It helps to create creative character interactions in the book. And it just tells a story about trying to find and seek some answers for something that happens in the beginnings of these books. The book does end pretty good, the first one. The Shadow Speaker ends really well. However, it was kind of an introductory into the world. If I'm not mistaken, it was her first book. And as first books go, it was really well written. It came out in 2007. Now, the second book, Like Thunder, that's AG. And that is Dikeogu. Dikeogu is the way I'm going to say it.
I crack up every time.
AG and Dikeogu. And he is a character in the second book that came out in 2023. So this duology only recently wrapped up. And it is his tale of revenge and seeking out a way to kind of finish some of the loose ends that were told from the story in Shadow Speaker. Nnedi is doing an excellent job introducing me into African fantasy, and I highly recommend these books. I gave Shadow Speaker 4.2 robes out of 5. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. And it was 4.2 robes out of 5. And then Like Thunder, I actually liked that a little bit more. It kind of added a little more action into it. It was from a different character's point of view who was also in the first story.
Hey guys, I just realized that I didn't really put much in for Like Thunder, and I just didn't say enough about it. Compared to Shadow Speaker, this one was a little more action-packed.
I'm kick-ass.
This is the story of Dike. He was searching for Eji to reunite with her. Somehow she went missing. It kind of picked up where it left off from Shadow Speaker. The two books actually kind of read as standalones, even though they belong in the same world. So I'm going to give this a score of 4.4 out of 5 robes because I felt like it was a little bit better. I think it wrapped up the story nicely, and I don't know, it just left me wanting to read some more. The next book that I'll probably pick up of Nnedi's is Who Fears Death. This is a critically acclaimed book. Excellent book. There's Dike. Cool artwork too. That cover's really cool, that thunder. Back to the video.
I don't know what else more I can say. I think these are fun stories, again, because of the African fantasy component. It's just a different world, different characters, different motivations, different things that drive them to be who they are. And it's really fascinating to get stuck into that. So Nnedi, this was the first story that I've read by her, and I'm going to continue to read her books. She's a very good author and offers that perspective that you don't get from a lot of English, American, white authors. So much to be appreciated. It's like discovering a whole new country. So thank you all for watching. Appreciate your time. And with that, I guess we'll just say keep on reading. We're gonna start. Oh,
the next book that I
la 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 la, get ready for the
first edition, got it from a library, which is interesting, where I was born, the library.
Hi, how are you? Let's start it different. Dike.